Thank you very much, Reverend Merriam, and thank you for creating that certain dose of uncertainty. What should I refer to? Reverend, Pastor, Ruth? Reverend is the one I'm most comfortable with. So thank you very much, Reverend Merriam, for inviting me to speak to this very, very, and I can't say this strongly enough, very, very welcoming congregation. And congregation, thank you very much for being so welcoming. It's really made a difference in my life. I'm here to speak about what I refer to as my unknown journey. But before I start speaking about that unknown journey, I do want to make mention of a piece of news that crossed my email this week. I have a cousin back in New York who, for the past 8 years, has been a total quadriplegic. And the news that crossed my email was that my cousin, just this week, has been able to move her fingers. And I'm sure you will join me in including her in my prayers to have that progress not stop, to have it continue. But now let me get back to what I was asked to speak about. And I've sweat laboriously to try and put something together that would hold people's interest. I want to speak to you about my unknown journey. But before I start talking about my unknown journey, as some of you know, I have multiple sclerosis. I've had multiple sclerosis now for at least 29 years. Since I've been diagnosed, I've known that I've had it. That being said, what multiple sclerosis has done for me, it's opened up my eyes to opportunities and possibilities that in all likelihood would not have been opened up had it not been for the multiple sclerosis. It's given me the opportunity to explore activities that I probably would have never gotten involved in. My elementary years were spent in Brooklyn, New York. Now, who's here that was from Brooklyn? You might be able to relate to some of this. My elementary years were spent in Brooklyn, New York, as the youngest of 4 siblings to a first-generation Italian-American parents. Now, the fact that I had 2 neighbors that were Italian is nothing too remarkable. The fact that one of them owned a ravioli company and the other owned a very famous Italian pastry shop, now that's remarkable. And may I say that in those times of power outages and minor emergencies, we were able to live in epicureal delight. And as you can tell, if you were to take a look at me, the remnants of that has not gone away. My elementary years were spent in Brooklyn. The fact, I already covered that. As you might be able to surmise, my youth did not leave me yearning for too much. Now, I wouldn't say that I was too spoiled, but you might say I was a little bit spoiled. My father was an industrial entrepreneur. He owned a block manufacturing company named Picone and Sons. Now, one of the things I point to, and this gives me a great opportunity to point to it, is that some of the structures that my father's company was very much a part of constructing was Shea Stadium, and the one dearest to me is the World Trade Center. And I would also remind myself that back in 1993, I guess it was, when they first bombed the World Trade Center, it was the block manufactured by my father's company that contained the blast to the degree that it did. Now, I'm sure that any other block from any other company would have done the same thing, but the fact that it was my father's company meant that just a little bit more to me. Now, after those were my elementary school years. And in my elementary school years, I had 9 years of Catholic education. And after 9 years of attending Catholic school, I said, I've had enough. That last year in high school was just a little bit too much for me. And I said, I want to go to public school with my friends. And again, going back to what I said earlier, I did not want for too much for too long. So guess who got his way? I did. And my high school years were very good. I look back upon them with great fondness. After my high school years, I headed out of New York to Connecticut for college, Quinnipiac College, as a matter of fact. The large majority of, 6 months out of college is when I started on my career, and that's where the real journey begins. Right after graduating college, I started on a career in sales management. And sales management gave me the opportunity to really become better, knowledgeable about the powers of motivation and the joys of helping people succeed. As a sales manager, that was my primary responsibility, helping people succeed. About 7 years ago, the journey took a turn. I had to go out on full disability because of multiple sclerosis, and that left me with a big question that I had to answer. What do I do now? I'm no longer a sales manager. What do I do to stay active and busy? Because those who know me know that if I'm not busy, trouble awaits. And I didn't want trouble. The question was answered in one word: volunteer. This part of the journey started with stepping up my volunteering with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society at various fundraising events, and taking a stab at mentoring a troubled high school student. Well, that didn't work out too well. And that morphed into adult tutoring. So for 3 or 4 years, I was an adult tutor, in addition to my National Multiple Sclerosis activities. Now, my National Multiple Sclerosis activities included just volunteering at various events and becoming somewhat of an activist. And after a period of time, about 3 years ago, they elected me to join their Board of Trustees of the Maine chapter, which then changed into the Central New England chapter, which then, after Maine joined it, became the Greater New England chapter. And to this day, I am still a member of the Board of Trustees of the Greater New England chapter. My efforts, again, were focused on having a presence at many events as possible, as a volunteer and activist. I chaired the York County Walk Committee for the past 3 years, and I currently chair the Government Relations Committee for 3 years. As I said earlier, this has been an unplanned journey. Well, that's not exactly accurate. There is a plan. It's not my plan, but it's a plan that I tend to follow simply by looking for opportunities that are lying in front of me. And I just choose to take the path that I want to take. And that has led me here, to this podium, to this spot. And again, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, Ruth. I'll get used to this. See, I have never been a religious person. I've dabbled in it, and I would say over the past 4 or 5 years, I've tried to become a little bit more religious, a little bit more tied into a church atmosphere. And after trying a few, including the Roman Catholic Church, I think I found my home. You folks have been incredibly welcoming, incredibly friendly, and you really have given me a sense of belonging. And again, I want to thank you very much for that. multiple sclerosis is a disease that affects many, many different people in many, many different ways. And it can affect one person in many, many different ways. My work with the Multiple Sclerosis Society gives me an opportunity to help people live better lives, more productive lives, happier lives. And for that opportunity, whoever or whatever has laid this plan out in front of me, I have to thank you, Lord, very much, because it has become a major part of my life, a major part of my focus. Now, please understand, I'm one of the very fortunate. What you see standing here is, and the hardships that I've endured are a cakewalk compared to what many other people endure that have multiple sclerosis. And I have to go back in a minute and just retrace my steps. Currently, I work with an organization called the National ABLE Network. And what the National ABLE Network is, it's an organization whose mission it is to use our expertise to empower people to improve their lives by providing the means of self-sufficiency and through sustainable employment and career and life advancement to nurture lifelong learning while building bridges between education, training, and career readiness, and between workforce and economic development. So you can see that how everything seems to be tied in. So this plan that was laid out for me is very well designed, and it's got me totally involved in what I've learned is something that I love to be involved with. And you might say that that has become my ministry. And I thank you very much for your listening. And again, please understand that I'm one of the very fortunate. And if any of my thing that I said today strikes any of your curiosities, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. And in fact, I would be honored to answer any questions you might have. Thank you very much.